China's audacity to challenge the US Navy ship, a big mistake. That's, bro, you know one thing I've learned here from these reactions? Don't mess with the US boats, bro. Don't mess with their boats. This man, bro, they will obliterate you if you mess with their boats, you know?
Within 24 hours.
Not even 24 hours, fam. Within a few minutes, they can wipe a whole nation off the face of this planet. Don't mess with their boats. But at the same time, this is China. China, you know, they're becoming a powerhouse. You know?
Yeah.
Becoming a powerhouse. Fam, the crazy thing is, 40 or 50 years ago, China was like a very poor country, bro. A lot of their cities were literally small villages. Within 40 years, these men have become one of the most powerful. I don't know how they've done it, man. How have they done it? Like, it doesn't make sense.
About manufacturing stuff and selling, man, and just being high up with technology, bro.
Yeah, but no, it's not just that though. Like, it's just the speed at which they've constructed their infrastructures.
Unbelievable, yeah.
It's just ridiculous. I don't think any country on this planet can build infrastructure so quickly. You know, definitely not. You know, I think they have a secret, bro, of how they do their stuff that the rest of the world don't know about. But yeah, smash this like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Enough talking. Let's dive in there.
Let's get it.
U.S. aircraft carriers have dominated the seas as floating fortresses of American military power. But new hypersonic missiles from China and Russia could change everything.
China has roughly 250 times the shipbuilding capacity of the United States. They have 50% of the shipbuilding capacity of the entire world, and the United States has 0.1%.
The South China Sea, a vast expanse of water at the heart of global trade, is a place where international law, power, and tension intersect. For decades, this strategic stretch of ocean has been a quiet battleground, one that has witnessed the ebb and flow of diplomatic maneuvering and naval presence. But on June 14th, 2025, the waters would boil over. It was a seemingly routine patrol for the USS Princeton, a ship renowned for its cutting-edge radar and military capabilities. Little did her crew know, they were about to find themselves at the center of a confrontation that could ignite the flames of global conflict. At 0923 hours, as the Princeton navigated the seemingly endless waters of the South China Sea, her advanced radar systems suddenly painted an alarming picture. A Chinese Type 052D destroyer, initially holding position 200 kilometers away, was on the move, accelerating at an unnerving pace. From a steady 18 knots, it surged to 30 knots in a matter of seconds. In naval terms, it was a sudden, aggressive move, one that no seasoned sailor could ignore. The Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was a symbol of American power, an armada of unmatched strength. At that moment, it stood 180 nautical miles from the nearest Chinese territory in the heart of international waters, where the lifeblood of global trade flowed freely. This stretch of ocean was worth more than just the resources contained beneath its waves. It was the critical conduit for trade, with over $3.4 trillion in commerce passing through it annually. The US Navy's presence here was not just a show of power. It was an assertion of global freedom, ensuring the sea lanes remained open for all, including Chinese factories selling their goods to the world. The situation was evolving too quickly. What had once been a simple patrol suddenly became a confrontation, and the USS Princeton's crew, trained for moments like these, braced for the unknown. Unknown to the Americans, the captain of the Chinese ship, the John Chong, had just received orders from Beijing. Intercept the American vessel, provoke them into making the first move. The Chinese would...
Don't do that, man. Don't do it. Don't do it. You know, Iran, they learned the hard way, innit? They tried to mess with those American boats and see what happened, you know. But at the same time, though, like I said, this is China as well. China is a powerhouse, you know.
They did say they can build 2 times the speed of America, so Yeah.
He said 250 times. Or
250.
Something like that.
Yeah,
I,
so
don't,
250.
I don't think that's true though. Right? That can't be true. But let me ask you this question, Mike. If the U.S. Navy and the Chinese Navy was to go to war, who do you think would win?
Somehow US will pull out the bag.
Yeah, I don't even know why I'm asking that question actually, because of that, the U.S. have far more power, far more far more experience, than the Chinese. But like, fam, China's catching up, man. Though they're catching up,
Provoke them into making the first move. The Chinese were determined to flex their muscles, to make a statement that the waters of the South China Sea were theirs to control. But as they soon would discover, the US Navy was not a foe to be underestimated. The USS Princeton, accompanied by the formidable Nimitz carrier strike group, was a force that had kept the seas secure for over 7 decades.
Wow.
The United States Navy was unmatched.
Sorry for pausing the video again, but this is the difference. America's Navy have far more experience, far more, war experience than the Chinese.
For sure.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time China went to war. Can you remember, Mike? Last time China went to war, I can't really remember. So America have far more experience. They've been there, done it on multiple occasions. So they are far more prepared, probably better trained as well.
Decades. The United States Navy was unmatched in its experience and readiness for battle. And today, that would prove to be an insurmountable advantage. By 09:26 hours, the Princeton's radar operators had successfully identified the Chinese destroyer. The target was now locked on, and the threat assessment was alarmingly clear, moderate to high. Inside the Princeton's Combat Information Center, CIC, the Tactical Action Officer surveyed the radar display with an air of calculated calm. With 122 vertical launch cells, the ship was more than capable of neutralizing any threat. The Princeton, armed with SM-6 missiles that could strike over 240 nautical miles away, stood ready to obliterate any potential adversary. At 09:30 hours, the threat data was shared across the entire Nimitz strike group. The USS Nimitz, a massive aircraft carrier displacing 104,600 tons, home to 90 of the most advanced aircraft in the world, shifted its flight operations with the precision of a Swiss timepiece. The strike group's destroyers, USS Chung-Hoon and USS Kidd, repositioned to secure the area around the carrier, creating a protective shell of American naval power. The stage was set. If the Chinese pressed forward, they would face an onslaught they could not survive. But the Chinese were undeterred.
Really?
At 09:35 hours, a new threat emerged. The radar systems aboard the E-2D Hawkeye, an airborne early warning aircraft, detected multiple Chinese J-15 fighter jets launching from the Chinese carrier Shandong. The fighters, a vital component of China's air power, climbed toward the American fleet, their engines roaring as they attempted to gain altitude. But the J-15s were struggling. The limitations of the Shandong's ski jump launch system were painfully apparent. The Chinese aircraft were already at a disadvantage, launched with reduced fuel and weapon loads. They climbed hard, burning precious fuel at a faster rate, and every second they spent struggling to gain altitude was a second that worked against them. Simultaneously, the Princeton sonar operators added another piece to the puzzle. The submerged contact they had been tracking for over an hour was identified as a Chinese Type 039 diesel-electric submarine. The submarine, despite its stealthy intentions, was making an almost laughable amount of noise. Its acoustic signature was so loud it could have been heard miles away.
Wow.
A catastrophic mistake for a vessel trying to maintain the element of surprise. It was clear now.
And that's the thing with submarines, bro. The difference between the better quality submarines or the more modern ones, they are very quiet. Very, very quiet. I think I watched a documentary recently of how America have managed to made their submarines very quiet. They have they have some type of like technology that no other country have developed. So American submarines are literally very quiet. Like it's like, fam, and American submarines are almost invincible under the ocean, Mike. Seriously. So like, I think one of the things that I remembered was the propellers. They designed it in a way where it doesn't generate as much bubbles, because bubbles, when they pop, they do create sounds.
Makes noise.
Yeah, so they designed the propeller, in a way that doesn't create bubbles, and it makes it very, very quiet. Yeah. So and this is what gives America the edge. Just little details like that, making a submarine very, very quiet. Having high skilled or well trained, soldiers and stuff like that.
Mistake for a vessel trying to maintain the element of surprise. It was clear now, the Chinese were not just testing the American forces, they were throwing everything they had into an intimidation campaign. They had deployed outdated surface ships, underpowered carrier aircraft, and a clumsy, noisy submarine, pieces of a military force that were decades behind the American fleet. But the Americans were calm. The US Navy's presence in these waters was no accident. For over 100 years, American forces had ruled the waves, ensuring that global trade continued without interruption. The Chinese forces had just made the grave mistake of challenging the wrong opponent in the wrong theatre of operations. As the situation unfolded, the US Navy's response was a model of professionalism and calculated restraint. By 0947 hours, the Chinese destroyer had locked its fire control radar onto the USS Nimitz. This was a serious escalation, a clear provocation. Yet, the response from the Princeton's crew was deliberate and measured. They were not reacting in panic. The fire control radar systems aboard the Princeton remained in standby mode, ready to unleash a devastating barrage of SM-6 and SM-2 missiles if the situation escalated further. At that moment, every detail of the confrontation was documented. Timestamps, signal characteristics, bearing data, all crucial information that would be invaluable if this engagement turned kinetic. The Chinese destroyer had crossed a line, but it had not yet triggered a shooting war. The Americans waited, disciplined, ready for whatever came next. In the air, the tension reached a boiling point. A Chinese J-15 pilot attempted to intimidate an FA-18E Super Hornet by making a close pass, a maneuver known as a thump. The American pilot, trained at Top Gun, responded in a way only the most experienced aviators could. He rolled, inverted, and closed in on the Chinese fighter, establishing a perfect firing solution. The Chinese pilot had placed himself in the Hornet's sights. An AIM-9X Sidewinder missile was just a squeeze of the trigger away from ending the confrontation. But the American pilot didn't squeeze the trigger. The moment passed. It was a reminder of the professionalism that defined the US Navy. The Chinese, despite their provocations, had not yet crossed the threshold that would force an American response. The situation, however, was far from over.
See, this is the thing, man. China are getting braver and braver, man. They're getting more and more big-headed, And I'm not gonna lie to you, Mike. I'm not the biggest. Well, actually, you know what? I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent when it comes to American politics because I don't know nothing about American politics.
So what was China trying to achieve here? That's what I don't understand.
I think they're just trying to I don't know.
What year was this?
I think this was recent, but he said 2025, so this was this year. I think they are just trying to flex their muscles, bro. Trying to show America that, hey, we are powerful as well. We're not that, that poor country that used to. I'm just ignoring it. So they're trying to show that they've got something to them as well. But the point I was trying to make is, I like what Trump did with the tariffs, bro. Because China is growing too quickly. They're getting too powerful, man. So I feel like imposing these high tariffs on China, is a very effective way to slow down their growth. Because you know, I believe China and America, or at least China's biggest trading partner is America. Innit? So like if America is imposing tariffs, it's gonna have an effect on their GDP. So I think that's a very clever move from Trump, because this man, again, too powerful, you know.
Response. The situation, however, was far from over. At 09:51 hours, the Chinese submarine made a critical error. It surfaced to recharge its batteries, raising its snorkel into the water. The sonar operators aboard the Princeton had been tracking this submarine for over an hour. The submarine, compromised by its own noise, was vulnerable. If this had been a real battle, the American forces would have had just seconds to engage before neutralizing the submarine. But again, restraint held. This wasn't a shooting war yet. The final blow came at 14:30 hours, when the USS Nimitz launched a massive display of air power. 48 aircraft roared off her deck in a coordinated strike that would have made even the most seasoned adversary quake in fear. Super Hornets, loaded with live weapons, joined forces with EA-18G
Jeez, look at
Growlers,
that.
which unleashed electronic warfare capabilities that rendered Chinese radar systems useless. The Shandong's radar screens were flooded with false contacts, and the Chinese pilots, already struggling to keep up, found themselves facing a battle they could not win. Meanwhile, a Virginia-class attack submarine, which had been silently shadowing the Chinese formation for days,
You know what I'm saying?
made its presence known,
You know what I'm saying, Mike?
surfacing
The American submarine went about its business undetected. See the difference? This is what gives America the edge, bro. you know, they are just so much more advanced. You know, China, I mean, yes, they've made progress, but like they're still decades behind when it comes to military power, man.
You're right.
You know, so
for days, made its presence known. Surfacing just 6 nautical miles from the Shandong, the submarine delivered a psychological blow to the Chinese forces. For 8 days, the Chinese had failed to detect it. If this had been war, their carrier would already have been sunk. As the day drew to a close, the Chinese forces began their withdrawal. Official Chinese communications spoke of completing scheduled exercises, but the truth was clear. The Chinese had come to assert their dominance over the South China Sea, to intimidate the American Navy, to lay claim to international waters.
yeah.
Instead, they had received a lesson in the unyielding strength of the US Navy. The South China Sea would remain America's 6th Great Lake, and the US Navy's dominance in these waters was
Yeah.
once again reaffirmed. The Chinese would have to reconsider their approach, for in these waters, the US Navy's presence was both unchallenged and unwavering.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like a big brother giving their younger brother a little slap on the wrist.
Pattern up.
I know, man. Don't try it, man. I'm the big dog right here. Don't mess with us. You know. Well, Mike, what's your takeaway, bro?
I thought they could get close to America, but bro,
Yeah.
America been building this empire,
Mm.
this sea, what do you call it?
The Navy,
On the sea. What do you call it specifically?
just their dominance on
Yeah.
on the sea, bro.
Bro, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah. For now,
And another thing I really liked is the patience. They could have blew up so many of their fighter jets.
yes. And
They're
that's
just
and that's where training
We're
comes
waiting
in.
for you. We're waiting for you guys to start, and then we're gonna rain hell on you guys. Like you dare do this.
Yeah.
So you take from the patience America have, man.
Yeah.
You take that into life as well, man.
Yeah. In the UK, we call it you're getting too big for your boots. You're getting too big for your boots. You're getting too carried away with China, man. You have to remember, yes, like Artie said, you've made progress, but this is America. When it comes to military power, man, they're unmatched. So don't try it. Stay in your lane, and everything is good. Stay in your lane. You know? Fly the action,
Great video,
guys.
man. Great video.
Yeah, if you like the action, guys, smash this like button. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. That's it.